and this is true in metaphysics, is that humanly we are under the domination of thoughts. You yourself have seen this in that we are all swayed to some extent by propaganda, some more and some less. If the propaganda is just strong enough, we'll all fall for it. If the ads are powerful enough and well enough written, we'll all buy the product. If we're in a theater and somebody cries fire, we nearly all get panic-stricken. In other words, humanly, we are subject to thought. If we go in a room where there's a hateful person in the midst of their hate, we'll almost feel the black cloud of poison that they're emitting. If we go into a room where there are kindly people, sweet people, generous people having a good time, we will feel the uplift of their thought. We all are influenced by thought, but in this work you have to learn to overcome that. And you have to learn to overcome that in this way. Living out from the center of being, you are untouched by the thoughts, opinions, laws, and theories of the world. Nothing acts upon you since you do not react to the world of appearances. You see, there is the word of truth in that, so far as the human world is concerned. Because all of the laws of the world and all the laws of the government and all the laws of nature and all the laws of heredity and all the laws of matter are operating in our experience. Why kid yourself? They are, humanly, and they are only overcome in proportion as you yourself specifically lift yourself from the domination of human laws, materia medica, opinions and theories and all these other things, and make yourself attuned to the Spirit. Now, when it says nothing acts upon you, it also tells you when and why and how. Since you do not react to the world of appearances. Now you see, there is where you come in again, not God. You. For the time being, this is you. If you are living in tune with God, and I say to you, you're a lot of thieves. Well, of course, all you're going to do is smile and say, what a fool. It isn't going to hurt you. You're not going to react to it. You're not going to get insulted. You only get insulted if it were true. Then you'd react to it, you see. But as long as it isn't true, you're not going to react to it. You're going to say, poor fool, to entertain such an opinion. Now, if I, however, come along and say, I think you're coming down with flu, that's quite a different story. All of a sudden, I wonder, was I out in the draft today? Now, did I get my... there's the reaction. If, however, you're in tune with the Spirit, say, nonsense. It's too bad you're subject to such beliefs, but no truth in it all. I'm subject not to flu. I'm subject to divine influence, the influence of God. And so it is that the whole of the thing lies in our reaction. Now, if a patient calls up, or someone calls up for a patient, and says, oh, this patient is dying, rush over here right away. If you rush over there right away, I'm afraid they're not going to get well. Because you have reacted. You have accepted that suggestion. You have just acted as though it were all true. Whereas, if you just say, yes, I'll be there, and then go quietly and sit down in a corner and say, who convinceth me of death? That's what the Master said. Who convinceth me of sin? Who convinceth me of death? Who is there that can make me react to the belief in a life apart from God? See, you're not treating your patient. You're treating you. Your patient has nothing to do with this. This is your belief, not the patient's. You don't know what the patient's thinking. The patient may think that's all nonsense. But at this moment, you're the patient. You're the one who dare not react. You are the one who must sit down and get so clear that until you have arrived at the point of consciousness where you say, well, go ahead and die if you can, but I doubt that you can, so I'll come there. Then when you get there, you find your patient on the mend. Then you can sit there quietly and receive your divine impartations. But if you've already reacted in fear and jammed your clothes on you and called a taxi in a hurry, then there's no use going there, because you're not going to bring about that healing. So it is in any way. When sin is brought to your attention, if you immediately start condemning that sinner, one of the ways in which I learned this lesson was, and this happens to all practitioners who have active practices. They have both men and women come to them. And if you could hear the stories some of the women tell about their husbands, and some of the stories the husbands tell about their wives, the first time you get to believing it. Then later you meet the husband or wife and you find out they were crazy. They were just prejudiced. They just didn't know this individual. And you find out, as a rule, that that's what happens. Actually happens. Through close living together, one does get a grievance or grudge or something or other, and they never see the other one then in the true light. So if they go to describe their husband or wife to somebody, it's from the standpoint of their limited and often incorrect vision, whereas other people say, I don't see that in this person at all. Now, the point that I'm making is, if I come to you and say that I'm sick or I'm sinful or I'm dying or I'm poor, do not react to that by believing it, but also do not turn around and believe the opposite. If I say I'm sick, don't believe I'm well. If I say I'm poor, don't believe I'm rich. Don't react by going to the opposite, But go down the middle and say, I don't think you're bad and I don't think you're good. I don't think you're rich and I don't think you're poor. I don't think you're sick and I don't think you're well. I think you're spiritual. And then you'll find how the miracle is worked in spiritual healing. When you are no longer throwing off the bad to exchange for the good, and going right down the middle and say, I don't care how good you are, how bad you are, what I want to know is how spiritual are you. And since God is your being, you are pure spirit. Do you see that point? That is one of our major points in our higher teaching, this what we call the middle path. In other words, if the patient has 103 fever and then you get a call saying it's down to 101, don't rejoice. And if it's 99 4/10, don't rejoice. Because it isn't the temperature you're interested in, it is your conviction of the spiritual nature of the individual, and that never changes. If you were a doctor, then you've got to bring down the fever. If you were a doctor, then you have to worry about the size of the lungs, but you're not. You are a spiritual seer. You are a spiritual student who is living not for the purpose of changing bad matter into good matter, or poor matter into rich matter, or sinful people into pure people. That's not your function. That's the function of Materia Medica and the church ministry. Your function is to establish the Christhood of an individual, not the health or the wealth or the purity. Your function is to establish Christhood. And so it is that when someone says, what a good man this is, and how pure, just say bunk. There is none good save God. That's the best answer you can make. And so when you learn to do that, and someone says this is an evil person, you can also say bunk, because there is no person save God. God is individual person. God is individuality. God is infinite individuality. God is the being of you and of me. So I don't believe it's good and I don't believe it's bad. I believe it's God. God being. You see that? Here it is. In the spiritual life, you place no labels on the world. You do not judge as to good or evil. You remember that? Who made me a judge over you? Who made me a ruler over you? While appearances may show forth harmony and discord, by not judging, you merely know is, and let that which truly is define itself. Now, supposing I don't know you, and supposing I don't know whether you're sick or well this minute, because nobody can judge by appearances, as you so well know. There are people who never in their life had a pain in their heart, and the next minute they were dead from heart disease. So I have no way of looking at you and knowing whether you're sick or well. Of course, I could judge from appearances and say you look well. That doesn't make it so. But I do not know whether you're sick or well. I don't even know if you're good or bad, or rich or poor, high or low. But there's one thing I do know about you. I know that you exist. you are. And that's enough for me to know. Because since God is infinite, there can be nothing to you but God. Since there can't be a God and a you. In the book Practicing the Presence, you will find this story, which I have since learned, comes out of, I think, the Persian or Muslim mystics. But it's the story of a very holy man who died and went to heaven and knocked at the gate. And God answered and said, "Who is there?" He said, "I." Well, there's no room in heaven. Heaven's crowded. You have to come back another time. The holy man went away surprised, thought it over, and in due time came back and knocked again. God answered, "Who is there?" It is I. "No, heaven's still crowded. You can't come in." Back another time. All full up. But this time the holy man did some very deep thinking. So when he came back the next time and God said, "Who is there?" he said, "It is thou." "Oh," God says, "enter, enter. There never was room here for me and thee." Now you see, heaven is only big enough to contain God. But heaven and earth is one. And so the earth is only big enough to contain God. And so if I say I am, I'm saying God is. And that's all I know about me is that I am. I will put no qualifications on that and say I am good or I am bad, I am sick or I am well, I am rich or I am poor. It's enough for me to say I am. If I can just keep on saying I am, I will definitely learn in very short time that I really and truly am, and all that God is I am, because there isn't any more room on earth for God and me than there will be in heaven.